I think when we start off about this entire session, Abhishek, I'd like to begin with you. What made you get into the genre of crime thriller? Have you always been an avid thriller fan? Do you love these movies?
Well, it's difficult. It's a very difficult genre to execute. So a good thriller is a rarity. And about 4 years ago, Mayank and Vikram, our producer and co-creator, approached me and just gave me a basic brief of what they wanted to do with the show. And for me, it was more the character that drew me to the project. I had not seen the original Breathe at that point of time. And once everything was locked in and we started filming is when I saw it. So you get to know the world. And it was wonderful because I think they've managed to create a great environment and a world filled with mystery and desperation. And what I really liked about Breathe and what Mayank had written was there's a very strong emotional reason why the story moves ahead. And I think that's integral to a good thriller. If it's just going to be very superficial and cosmetic, it doesn't really resonate. The basics, foundation and seed of Breathe season 1 and then Breathe into the Shadows and then our subsequent season is there's a very strong emotional reason why the story moves forward, and I think that's integral. So having said that, that's why I said it's very difficult to come across a very engaging thriller, because until you're not emotionally invested in it, it becomes a bit difficult. And I'm glad that Mayank, I think, in my opinion, has done a great job. So I'm very, very pleased and honored that he chose me to be a part of this family, yeah.
So internationally also, crime thrillers are a rage right now. I'm sure you've seen a lot of these series that are right now very acclaimed, critically acclaimed. Do you think that in India too, we're delivering content equivalent to that now?
Oh, absolutely. I think there's been a huge democratization of talent with the influx of digital streaming sites. Previously, when you wanted to see our local content, you went to the movie theater or you put on the television. Then there was the advent of satellite TV where suddenly the world opened up to India and we got to see what they were making. But they were on the English channels. We were on the Hindi local GECs. In movies, if you wanted to see an English film, I mean, it was very rare that you got to see a movie of another language in India. There are dedicated theaters that showed English films. Then came the multiplexes that kind of made it more accessible, and that's why you see a lot of other foreign films doing a lot better now in terms of collections. What happened when digital streaming sites, or as we refer to it, OTT platforms came into being, is suddenly everybody was accessible to everybody at the push of a button. So you can watch an English show, a Hindi show, Tamil, Telugu, Malayalam, Kannada, Punjabi, Bhojpuri, Bengali, Gujarati, Marathi, coupled with Spanish, Korean, various European languages, all at the push of a button. So that kind of made everybody and gave it an equal playing platform. So you're competing, so to speak, although I don't like using that as a word, because we're all collaborators and we're all colleagues and we're all part of a bigger fraternity. But suddenly, you're vying for attention from the world as opposed to just India.
You have a larger audience now.
In a sense. And the fact that you have platforms like Amazon that have the reach that they do. And I don't know the exact figures, but from what we're told, a lot of their Indian content has gone on globally to be some of their top 10 shows worldwide. So that goes to show that there's a huge appetite for Indian storytelling. And that's great for our confidence. The fact that Breathe is now technically in its 3rd season and Breathe into the Shadows has come into its 2nd season is, I think, a huge testimony to the fact that the show has done well for them. And although, for us, unfortunately, fortunately for the rest of the world, digital platforms don't put out numbers. So I think that what that does is it keeps the focus on the content. We've become far too obsessed about collections and money, as opposed to the content. And I think when they don't put out these numbers, it just focuses on the content. And the only way to know whether your show is doing well or not is whether it gets another season.
Don't you think that shows also in the fact that, language is no longer a barrier, content is king, and we've discussed this several times.
It's always been. In our bid to define everything as human beings, we need justification. But at the end of the day, good content will always work no matter what the language. And that's been proved from the time we've been in the audiovisual medium. Even before that, when there was theatre, at the end of the day, if you don't write a good play, you don't write a good screenplay, you don't make a good movie, nobody's going to watch it. It's as simple as that.
Amit, what do you think about the whole craze for crime thrillers right now? What is it about crime thrillers that's got everyone so engaged in India and overseas? What's the success sauce?
Sorry, pardon?
What's the success sauce of a crime thriller?
Okay. First of all, very good afternoon to all the guests and the audience here. And before I answer your question and I come back into Breathe, the last session that you guys had and the brief 5 minutes I heard about climate change has instigated so many thoughts in me. And I think India Today Conclave, this is something your organization has always pushed to instill, instigate, and bring awareness on such things. And I just wanted to say that even the 5 minutes that I heard the last session has made me thinking, and I think that's a good start. Back to Breathe. I think I'm an audience too. Right? I consume movies. I consume stories. I don't like saying content because that kind of, as an artist, I just don't appreciate that term. But I think the thrill, the fascination, and as human race, I think we like violence. We like blood. You know what I mean? And
so it's an obsession with gore?
It's true. It's the truth. I mean, you can go to any psychiatrist. It's, and I just think when you sit home and you watch something and you want to know what's going to happen next, that keeps your curiosity awake. So that's my take. That's the reason I watch.
Yeah.
The thrill of not knowing what's going to happen next. And what I don't remember the next question.
I was asking you what really makes a crime thriller work. What makes it successful to you?
To me?
Yeah.
To me, because I get these crazy, complex, twisted roles. And it allows me to grow as an actor. It allows me to understand the psyche of different people, and crime thrillers is, again, it's not about normal people. They're about characters and people who are maybe not 100%. And for me as an artist, as an actor, when I do such roles or when I prepare for such characters or films or shows, it just allows me to step out of myself. It allows me to have more compassion and more empathy for people who are not 100%. So that's one little thing. Other than the most important thing is the thrill when you, as a viewer, as an audience. Yeah.
Mayank, as someone who's, behind the Breathe series, I think Breathe is one of those critically acclaimed crime thrillers in India, which very few have really managed to achieve. What do you think really sets apart this series from the rest of the crime thrillers that you see out there?
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone. Yeah. So, with Breathe, again, I strongly feel it's the characters, what we really create. The motives behind those characters are so personal, and that I feel sets apart rather than just the technique of creating a thriller. Absolutely, for a good thriller you need a good packaging of excellent cinematography, sound design, the
to get
special
that
effects.
Audience invested into
Absolutely,
the show.
yeah. Because it's such an immersive experience, especially for this medium. Hence, it becomes very, very challenging and more important to create very intriguing characters, which are emotionally so strong that they're, you feel so attached to their motivation after a point, because you live with those characters for close to 480 minutes. So, it gives the audiences the time to go deep into the psyche of the character and understand him and unleash the layer episode by episode, and it kind of, surprises the audiences at sometimes. So, other than that, absolutely, I really work hard on to first crack a very solid plot line, a very intriguing plot line, because I always believe that within 2 minutes, if I have to narrate something to you, it should hold your attention first. So a very solid plot line is very, very important for a psychological thriller, I believe, to be cracked really well. And then to work extensively on the characters, along with a very engaging screenplay. That holds the right key, because a plot line, yes, you've gained my interest for 2 minutes, but how to now really flesh it out and, hold the audiences for every single minute of those.
It's not easy, clearly. It's not easy, especially when it's a series that, you have one season, then the next season, and you have to end it with a cliffhanger.
So true. And cliffhanger, with the season of Breathe, I would, we've created the last season as well, and now this is the continuation of that. We're coming after 2.5 years. So we were very sure that, we want to have a different approach to the season, be it, make it more cinematic. So if you see, all 8 episodes are like mini movies. So we've treated like that, we've written it like that, to make every episode like a mini film, and by every episode you're gonna get to know something new about the characters. So yeah, we took close to 1.5 years just to write the season. Yeah.
And it's coming through in the trailer clearly as well. Sayami, do you agree with what Amit said, that, there's also certain obsession with gore and violence, and that's what also triggers this curiosity and interest in crime thrillers?
I agree with what Amit said. I think, the human tendency to veer towards something, when you're on the road and there's an accident. There are a lot of people who gather around not really to help. I don't know why they hang around there. So, we as a human mind tend to veer towards something which is gory. And I think that on screen has really worked. So I completely agree with what Amit said. And the other point which you mentioned about, the global and Indian stories that we are telling, I feel, the more local and more specific we go with our stories, the more global we go. So the more detailed we go, it's going to appeal to people globally. So with Breathe, we are so rooted into Jay and Avinash's character, and we are so detailedly rooted into his brain, which is why I felt the last season worked. So I think stories are not really, it's not, language is not a barrier, countries are not a barrier. I feel they're human stories. If you connect with them, you connect with them. And that's been a big, big advantage for us. And for actors like us to get opportunities to be working in so many different stories, it's been a true blessing.
Naveen, what do you have to say about this whole genre? And for you, it's been quite a journey as well, because, you have this huge TVF fan base, a very young audience that looks up to your work as well. From that to move to this kind of a crime thriller, what was that experience like?
I think ever since I thought of being an actor, I wanted to be part of thrillers, When you are in school or college and you think of becoming an actor, you want to become an actor because of movies like Bazigar and Dar and, things like that. That's the kind of films I grew up on. And nobody wants to play a startup founder or an IS officer. I had not seen films like that. So for me, acting has started now, because now I'm being able to do things that I, wanted to do since a long time. So, I'm glad Mayank saw that kind of thing in me to give me a role like this. And I think I had a wonderful time here playing this part. And I just hope I get to do many more such parts in future.
I'm sure you will. Abhishek, your character in the series is that of, a desperate father who's going to any extent to help his family. how emotionally challenging is that for you to also play? As someone who is a father, do you also take from personal experiences, bring that into your role?
It's immensely difficult. But acting is very difficult. As good as we all might think we are, at the end of the day, you do delve into your personal experiences and emotions to try and replicate it in, in a scene. So keeping that in mind, it becomes very difficult. Being a parent, and that too of a daughter, and in Breathe I have a daughter as well, for whom I do all this. Obviously there's a lot of resonance, and it does hit home a bit. Mayank doesn't shy away from reminding you of your personal life in order to get the correct emotion for his scene. Yeah. So yes, it's very difficult.
But how much do you really draw, and where do you draw that line between personal and ensuring that it also doesn't overpower your performance?
Well, part of being an actor is that you should not have boundaries in anything. I don't know very many actors who will not go to any extent to do their job to the best of their ability. There's a reason why we're all a bit off in the head. It's because, you do drive yourself to sometimes rather unhealthy extremes to achieve your job. It can be a physical transformation. It can be an emotional transformation. But you do what the job expects you to do. Because, my father very famously told me when I was starting my career, and I had a similar question about, what should one be doing? And he said, there are no subtitles saying, oh, please excuse his bad performance because he was having a bad day. The audience doesn't care. At the end of the day, you have to just convince them of the emotion that you're trying to convince them of at that point of time. So you have to do whatever it takes. So there are many actors, some who are very natural and instinctive, some which believe in the method. And these are all different titles given to a process to achieve what you need to achieve. So yes, actors do whatever is needed. We're not very comfortable talking about it because you have to revisit those emotions then, but you do whatever is needed, and that makes it very, very challenging.
What's the process been like for you, Abhishek, to move and to do the transition essentially from movies also to these kind of series which draw on for a long period of time? The shoot essentially would go on for quite some time itself because it's episode based. How has that transition been? Is it smooth for an actor from movies
There's
to
no
OTT?
difference.
There's no difference.
I understand the distinction between cinema and digital platforms and television and theater, but at the end of the day, for an actor, you're acting. The process to shoot a web series like this and a film is exactly the same. And like Mayank said, each episode is approached as a mini movie. The last season, each episode, and we had 12 of them in the last season, were almost an hour long. So in essence, you made about 6 films. This season has 8 episodes. So each episode, the writing, the screenplay is devised in a way as they're episodic. So it's like a mini movie. The process is exactly the same. The equipment is exactly the same. So like Mayank said, the attempt in this season was to make it larger than life, was to dial up the intensity, to dial up the thrill, and make it more cinematic. So it's exactly the same. All actors will tell you, be it television, be it film, be it streaming platforms, you're acting. At the end of the day, there's nothing different.
You mentioned something your father said to you. I'm sure everyone is very curious to know what he thinks of Breathe as well.
He's biased, so...
We'd love to know what you thought of your performance.
Currently, I'm in his good books with my performances. So he's being biased. He saw the last season a lot later from when it originally dropped. He saw the first episode.
Did he binge watch it?
He did eventually. But like I said, my father is biased, and his words and his encouragement and his criticism mean the most to me because he's always been very honest. But right now I think he's enjoying everything that I'm doing. The true testimony that we've made a good thrilling show was my mother refuses to watch it. She's like, nahi, mujhe ye sab nahi dekhna hai. I get scared with all this. So she still hasn't watched it. So, yes, he's excited. He's more excited about the new season than all of us. We've been so busy promoting. He keeps messaging. He just, in fact, messaged me just before we came on. Good luck. Can't wait. The new promo's looking good. Naveen, he liked your, because that was the last asset we put up. So he liked your character promo very much. So he's very, very excited. He's very invested. So yeah, the family is, they're very sweet. I mean, they'll all wait till, the 8th night at midnight and they'll all put it on and watch it, barring my mother, who will much rather go watch something else. She doesn't like that kind of aggression and violence. She prefers to go to Parliament where none of that happens.
So who's the biggest fan of thrillers in your family then?
Thrillers, I don't know, but like horror and stuff, my niece, Navya. I mean, there's something wrong because she watches these really scary movies all alone in the dark, and that's her thing.
You can't watch them.
No, I can't watch all that. No.
Amit, this is something that you were mentioning as well, about how there's such a love for violence, for horror, particularly I think in this generation. The young audience really seems to crave it. And there are some who question whether that's normal, to want to live off these kind of experiences in films, in series. And is that what's being exploited by the genre essentially?
I'd rather see it than go and be it, right? So, and that's also, I think, that worry is almost diminished. Of course, cinema and characters and what we do on screen, especially in a country like India, which is still finding its footing. And we have, on one platform, we are doing so well. We are prospering, we are learning, we are economically getting better, but there are so many issues, which we all know, which I don't want to bring them up right now. So yes, I mean, there is this very thin line of how we portray what we show and the effect of it on the country and the generation. But right now, it's a movie. You're talking about a film or a web series that you watch, which engages you, thrills you, and you see some action. And it's not just the youth that likes action movies. Everybody likes action movies. And psychological thrillers, I think it's a new genre, or maybe a genre that is being accepted right now more because of, again, fascination. And also I think people have changed. We accept our shortcomings more easily than we would do 10 years back. We accept that we are not perfect. It's fine, It's not a taboo. Like going to a psychiatrist in India is it's not like, it's not frowned upon. So I think at the end of the day, you're just coming home after 12 hours, 16 hours of your work and watching something. And if it engages you and excites you, and for me personally, if it gives you some message in the end, I'm happy with that.
Talking about your personal experience also with Breathe, we were having a conversation earlier where you did say that this particular series came to you at the exact right time because emotionally you were dealing with a lot.
Yes, like how Abhishek said that, as an actor, we go through so much as an artist, not just an actor, in every form of art. Art does come from a lot of conflict, pain, and introspection, a lot of I always say art comes with a lot of crucifixion and you have to find your resurrection, right? But I would like to share this since you've asked me and we had a chance to talk about it. Breathe was offered to me by this great gentleman on my left, our director Mayank Sharma, and my producer Vikram Malhotra, at a time when I was in a very lost stage in my career. And it's not that, I think it's not losing your path or feeling lost is fine, but I think in a brutal industry, cinema and movies, it's like when you're lost, people around you make you feel like, it's
like you're down and out.
You're done. So at that time, I was just going through a lot of angst, anger. So I had a big bag of emotions and some hope. And when I got Breathe and I got this crazy character who's so damaged, who has lost hope, who has all the things that I was going through. So I just took everything and I just put it like way forward. And the Breathe has done well. And we've got a lot of love for Breathe. And my character has got so much love. So I'm just grateful. I'm grateful to be here on this platform. I'm grateful to be a part of this team. I'm grateful to hold this mic and being heard. Just thankful for everything.
I think with every conversation I've had with you in, I think the last 10 minutes or so, it's always been such a deep sense of gratitude, which feels amazing as well. And I said this earlier, there's always this belief that within the industry, you know, actors are arrogant, etc. I think you've set the record straight that there is a very deep sense of gratitude for the work you get, for the way you're able to deliver it, for the response you get as well. Naveen, do you also, you know, agree with that? Because you've had a very, very interesting career graph essentially. Because, like I mentioned earlier, Breathe is very different from what you've done earlier as well. So, what was your experience like? How did you get into the teeth of this character?
I think the credit should go to Mayank for considering me for this part. And you were asking about preparations, right?
Yeah.
Preparations were like. We sat, we discussed scenes, you know, it's pretty much the way it has been for every other character that I've played, honestly. The difference would be, I don't know if I'm allowed to reveal it right now, but we also had a few meetings with a few doctors, and because of the kind of character I'm playing in the show. And it was all new for me because I had not done that before. But I also feel that every character you play, the approach is also different every time. You know, every character requires a different approach. So I was very excited to hold a gun because I had never, you know, done that before. There's a story about gun also in the show. I hope you get to watch it. And I was also getting to kill people, which also was very new and fascinating. And
fascinating.
I mean, because I've been
I'm
fan
scared
of,
right now.
So,
I think I should run from
I think,
here.
you know, if you go through the list at like on IMDb, you'll see the...
We're meant to convince them to see the show, not to repel them from the... I mean,
No, but Abhishek, the best ever shows are like Wire, Breaking Bad, Game of Thrones. In all these shows, and people watch these shows, and they're considered the best shows.
Those are
So it's a
अंग्रेजी के
proof
show
that
हैं भैया, हम
people
लोग देसी लोग हैं. We're different. We like माँ का emotion, बच्चे के emotion, ये सब. It's a family show.
लोगों को actually खून खराबा बहुत पसंद है. So
We'll balance it out. We'll balance it out. He's very clear that this is what he wants to sell.
So, I was, I was excited and like slowly, steadily, scene by scene, we worked on the scene and we worked on the character and that's how the process was, I guess.
Sayami, I'm going to keep the most controversial question for you. We've got a lovely panel here. Who was your favorite co-star? You have to name, no diplomacy allowed.
I mean, I love Naveen and Amit, but it will be AB because I've worked the most with him. I've worked thrice with him now, twice on Breathe and one on Balki sir's film Ghumar, which we are doing next. So it has to be him. He gets great food on set, even though he says I don't eat it. He gets a lot of humor on set and you know, this is not becoming like a platform to be praising. It's not a AB praise platform, but I feel he's a very, very prepared actor. Not taking away from Amit and Naveen, I've just not worked so much with them.
I think you just haven't spent enough time with us yet.
Amit is hurt.
No, because you know, what AB does is he likes to underplay things when he comes on set and he'll just be like, and you know, keep underplaying things. Arey, kitne lines hai, ye hai, wo hai. But he's just the most prepared actor that I have worked with. So it's been an absolute pleasure because it's been 3 years that I've worked on 3 projects with him.
Thank you.
Abhishek, what's been your biggest learning really from Breathe, from the series?
To stay very far away from Amit and Mayank.
And
They're
yeah, Naveen
very
too, I
twisted
think.
people. If you, Naveen, phir bhi theek thaak hai. These two are, their mind is somewhere else. No, it's, you know, I think the greatest learning for me has been the only feedback you get on these OTT platforms is through social media. And the immense reach that the digital medium has today within our own country. The kind of people that, you know, will walk up to you on the street or in an airport and say, hey, we loved Breathe and we can't wait. It's immense. I'm a product of cinema. I come from a cinematic family. Both my parents are actors. My wife is an actor. I'm an actor. I've been doing this for 22 years. And the reach of Indian films is immense worldwide. But when you do something on a digital platform, you realize that reach, grows times 10 almost. Because first and foremost, language is not a barrier. There's a lot more accessibility. So I think a great learning has been that we have a wonderful medium and an opportunity to reach out to that many more people and entertain them. And that's been a huge learning and something which I feel so happy that I've been allowed to be a part of.
There is a conception, correct me if I'm wrong, but there is this belief that the big superstars in the industry, take a Shah Rukh Khan, Salman Khan, Amir, or anyone else, that they haven't taken the OTT plunge yet, that they're still superstars of cinema. Do you think that's a right conception, that, they don't choose to go into OTT because they're successful movie stars?
No,
and did that occur to you?
It's got nothing to do with that. It's got nothing to do with that. At the end of the day, all their movies are available on digital platforms. It's just another medium through which, it's really not such a big deal. At the end of the day, it's about getting the work that you want to do at that point of time. There's really, from all my colleagues that I have had in-depth discussions with, none of them see a distinction between cinema and OTT platforms. It's what kind of story you want to tell at that point of time. I've discussed this in depth when we've been promoting, especially the last season, that what's the difference between cinema and OTT. I just think the only difference is the approach in writing. In a movie, you have to tell a rather vast story within 2.5 hours. Add at least 4 songs, have all your emotions, and give an Indian audience poetic justice by the end of that journey, which is what I think the USP of Indian films are. I've always likened Indian cinema to our food and our thali. There's a little bit of everything. Meetha, spicy, kadwa, all that. So
and our films, at the end.
Yeah, exactly. Our films have to have all of that. And that has to be done in 2.5 hours. In a web show, you get to do the same thing, but you get to do it over a longer period of time. So you can really deep dive into characterization, etc., etc. Whereas in a movie, you might have to skip over certain things. That's the only difference. The minute an actor gets a role or a job that inspires them, they'll do it. They're not going to be concerned about, is it on the silver screen or is it on your mobile phone? That doesn't matter. It's about telling the interesting stories.
So you didn't hesitate at all?
No, not at all. If we just do a bit of role playing, if I offered you Breathe and the character that Mayank and Vikram wrote for me, why would you say no? It's a wonderful opportunity to showcase your talent, and it's a wonderful opportunity to entertain through a story which is very engaging. Why would anybody say no? So I really don't think there's this whole distinction that, the big superstars haven't come. It's not that. It's also a matter of what inspires you. I remember this discussion happening in the year 2000 when my father forayed into television with Kaun Banega Crorepati. And they're like, how can Amitabh Bachchan come on the small screen? But look what he did. It's been 22 years. He's still making Kaun Banega Crorepati and, it's out every day. So I think it's just a matter of what inspires you at that point of time.
That's a great example. Unfortunately, I've completely run out of time, but I'd like to thank all of you for joining
apologies.
us here.
We Indians are not very good at leaving on time. We don't come on time, we don't leave on time, sir.
We can keep going.
Ye hamari aadat hai. We're all about heart and emotion.
We can keep going, but thank you so much, Abhishek.
Thank you for having us.
Amit,
Thank you so much.
Sayami, and big round of applause, please, for the team of Breathe Season 2.